We are back on Taking Care of Business on Current Radio, News Talk 1180, 1230 KGEO, 1410 KERI, and now in New Mexico on 1000 KKIM. Our guest by phone, former senatorial candidate, Bruce Herschensohn. So, Bruce, I wanted to talk a little more about Afghanistan.
Sure.
Here we are. We've set this timetable. They know when we're leaving. They can wait us out. What's the end game in Afghanistan for us?
Well, I always knew what it was before Obama. I have no idea what it is now. The end game for us before President Obama was to ensure that the Taliban would never be back. It was to rid Afghanistan of the Taliban, to rid the world of the Taliban, and also that, of course, Al-Qaeda would never come back. To rid the world of Al-Qaeda. That was the idea. They had attacked, Al-Qaeda had attacked on 9/11 of 2001. We went to Afghanistan because the Taliban government was harboring Al-Qaeda. And by God, we got rid of the Taliban as the government in something like 33 days. That was a virtual success beyond a shadow of a doubt. But it went and hid in the caves. So did Al-Qaeda. And neither one of them are gone now. And they're expanding. They're both expanding. Al-Qaeda is now, whereas we used to think of it as being in Afghanistan, Pakistan, Yemen, now it's in some 30 countries of the world.
I had a guest a couple years ago, Gary Bernson, who he's related to a friend of mine, and he was the CIA chief initially in Afghanistan. He's the guy that took care of the Taliban in the first 33 days.
Oh, really? You had him on your show?
Yeah, interesting
Great.
guy. And I asked him, I said, Gary, I heard that you had a suitcase with $2 million in it. He said, yeah, it was a Rubbermaid case. He said, I'd call up a local chief and I'd say, we want you to join us, and here's $200,000 if you do.
Uh-huh.
If they said no, I'd call in the Air Force, and they'd put in a strike and wipe them out. And then I'd call up the next group and make them the same offer, and they'd say yes. So
I would think they would say yes under those circumstances. And look, that's the way you do it.
Yes.
I mean, that is. I mean, there are those people who say, "Oh my God, that's just terrible." The devil is terrible. That's the way you do it, and that's the way the world operates. Mm-hmm. Too bad. I'd like to have it be real clean and neat, but it isn't.
You're talking about war,
Of course you are.
Yeah.
You're going to either win or you're going to lose. Mm-hmm. There's no way to simply end a war. You'll win it or you'll lose it. And you have to realize that every single moment. And then you do those things that are not fun to do. They're not those things that you think, gee, this is the ideal way to act all the time. You do those things that are necessary at the time because it's survival.
And you would think we would have learned that after Vietnam, but apparently we haven't.
No, we haven't.
So, unfortunately, what we were talking? You alluded a little bit to Syria. What should we be doing in Syria differently?
Right at the outset, we should have taken the lead, not leave it up to other nations to take the lead. France, Turkey, other nations, and in taking the lead, by this I mean. Do not ever say it'll never be boots on the ground. We have become a country that will never put boots on the ground after Iraq and Afghanistan, and the world knows it. In the doing of that, we have relied on Saudi Arabia and Qatar to find those people who are rebels, who are against the al-Assad government, find those ones who we can count on. They're not al-Qaeda, they're not jihadists, and to give them weaponry and aid. And we have done it, but we've done it through Saudi Arabia and Qatar, not directly. No, you've got to do it directly, because you can't count on others to do those things that are so important to do. It's why you got to take the lead. Now we are, as of yesterday, we are giving recognition to the rebels. I'm for it. I'm for it under the circumstance of al-Assad being so terrible, but deeply concerned because we're doing it after other countries have done it. We let them do it. Turkey did it. France did it. But we do not know the members of the opposition. Right. I don't want them to be as bad as or worse than, if it can be imagined, al-Assad.
Mm-hmm. And now the issue of chemical weapons is being brought up.
Of course it is. And look, we've talked earlier about the use of the phrase red line. We have said that there would be a red line with chemical weapons being mixed. Now we know they're mixed and the red line is being used. Well, come on. You're going to do it after they're used? Mm-hmm. It takes 1 minute to kill tens of thousands of people.
Yeah, crazy. We're having a conversation with author, commentator, Bruce Herschensohn. And that brings up another point, which is, if Assad does decide to use chemical weapons against his own people, mm-hmm. there is going to come a point real quick there where Israel is going to have to do something, because what if chemical weapons fall in the wrong hands?
Boy, there's no question about it. Israel is just a bullseye right now in that part of the world. It's a bullseye for so many nations, certainly for Iran, certainly for Syria, and for Hezbollah, for Hamas in Gaza, and I have to say, very likely for Egypt, depending on what Morsi does. But if he doesn't stop those tunnels that go from the Sinai into Gaza, as they were stopped and closed up under Mubarak, if he doesn't do the same kind of thing, then he's as much of a threat as anyone else.
Can you elaborate a little bit on those tunnels?
Yeah, they are used. What has been since Morsi has been Iran to Sudan with missiles, Iran to Sudan, Sudan to Egypt, Egypt to the Sinai Desert, which of course is part of Egypt, to tunnels that lead from that area of Egypt into Gaza, which is controlled by Hamas. That is the way that's the reason that Israel has had so much of a quarantine during these years, so that supplies would never get into Gaza. The only way that they had of getting into Gaza after Israel closed the gates unless they inspected them and saw it was for humanitarian, but not for a war effort. The only way they had of getting those missiles in, which struck Israel just recently in the latest conflict, was through the tunnels that led from Egypt into Gaza, and Mubarak had them closed up, but that Morsi does not.
Well, and here it is. They're supplying this stuff to Hezbollah, through the back door, and
that's through Syria.
Yeah, through Syria,
right.
and then you can see Hezbollah getting control of some chemical weapons, and with their missile systems, which there's no
Marty,
guidance
you're right
system.
On the nose. Exactly true. You got you have to realize that when I said Syria very, very quickly, also mm-hmm. Lebanon, which Syria controls. Hezbollah is right on that border. It has thousands of missiles stockpiled since their last war with Israel that they have gotten from Iran, Syria, Lebanon, and then also missiles that have come through the tunnels, as we mentioned, to Hamas in Gaza. And when I say they got a target on them, they sure do have a target, and they have it coming from the north, and they have it coming from the west and from the south.
Well, when we come back from the break, I want to talk a little bit more about the chemical weapons situation, because it's it's to the point where Israel doesn't have a whole lot of choices, and I think at this stage of the game, it's pretty obvious what they're going to have to do.
Yes.
Yep. We'll be back in a moment on Taking Care of Business on Current Radio News Talk 1180.